Hello and welcome to Tuner Tuesday. We have two more races for you today. Up first, it is me on the right with the Acura, I don't know, NSX. That one. I shouldn't have picked a car I can't pronounce the name of. And on the right we have Mess 8, who is driving the green. That one. I got the colour. Right, it is green, it's not orange. I can't say green. Oh, never mind. He's driving the Lamborghini Miura. Anyway, off the line, the Miura ends up on the, I don't know, what is it, AstroTurf? I think. Ends up over there slightly. However, things are fairly even. The NSX actually has very good launch, I have to say. For a rear-wheel drive car, it has been fairly impressive. However, we go through Maggots and Beckers. The Miura actually did really well, considering how old that car is. I think it's the oldest car that we have ever had on Tuner Tuesday. It did really quite well. I mean, yes, okay, it's upgraded, so it's not the ancient suspension, and I suspect it's running race tyres. But still, it's remarkably good considering it's racing up against a sort of a modern sports car, almost bordering on supercar, I would say, with the NSX. I was expecting the Miura actually to be a lot quicker in a straight line than it was. It's 446 horsepower, which is 110 more than my NSX. However, it did 1 more mile an hour faster. In fact, I think it was near enough the same. Which, yeah, that confused me a little bit. I would guess possibly the Miura is running a lot more downforce. I can't really tell you, but I would guess that is. I also look at the size of the steering wheel in the Miura. You can tell how old a car is by the size of the steering wheel. Because the old cars have ridiculously big ones. That's like a boat sort of steering, whatever they call it, on there. As we went through Maggots and Beckers, though, on the second lap, the Lamborghini got things a little bit wrong, and you don't want to be over there making up his own track. That's what I do. And that lost him a few seconds. You're quite lucky if you go off over there, you don't end up in the sticky stuff. On the inside of that corner you would, and also on the outside of a lot of the corners around here where the runoff areas are, it's all the sort of the slidey stuff, which is, it just slows you down a lot more. You kind of got away with it a little bit because you can sort of keep going, but you do still lose 3 or 4 seconds doing that. And as you can see, the Miura has fallen quite a way behind the NSX. It's actually quite a shame, to be honest. Not a huge amount happened in this race after that. The Lamborghini fell back, and it wasn't quite as fast as the NSX. There was about a second difference in fastest lap. Not too bad considering this is a 2-minute lap. Second isn't a huge amount. It is a shame that the accident, off, whatever you want to call it, mistake happened. Because I think it would have been fairly close between these two. You know, if you're sort of alongside each other or you're close racing, you defend or you're under pressure. So things would have been different, I suspect. But as we can see, this is on lap number 2 or 3. I think actually this is on the 3rd lap. Yeah, you can just about see the NSX in the distance. There wasn't a huge margin of victory in this race particularly. As I said, fastest laps were relatively close. However, things were fairly straightforward as we come around the last corner for my NSX. I would like to say I apologise for the people that I was really late sending out. In fact, I don't even send out messages in the end. This was just sort of luck as who was on, because I completely thought I had sent them on Tuesday, but I hadn't. So yeah, it was a little bit last minute. So neither of us were particularly as much preparation as we would have liked. The Lamborghini does a little bit of a slide as it comes around the last corner. It's going towards the wall. I don't know if he touched the wall there or not. He may have just about got away with it. And there we go. So we move on to the second race of the day. It is Ranger Hitman who is driving the Dodge Daytona, which is good, a muscle car. I like to see these. And TJ's first race, who is driving the Ford Sierra Cosworth. The Daytona is, well, I like muscle cars. You all know that by now, so I'm very pleased to see this. Listen to that proper big V8. Lots of noise. I was expecting the Daytona to be a lot more of a handful. It is a huge car. I think it's 18 foot long. I think I looked up some of the statistics. God dear, I cannot speak. Statistics. Yeah, you know the word I'm trying to say on this thing. Yeah, 18 foot long car. That is massive. Power wise, it has got 517 horsepower. Not quite as much as the ones we drove around Rally Apostolato, but still, that's quite a lot. I was expecting this thing to be a lot faster in a straight line. Actually, it's doing 148. By the time it comes to put on the brakes. It isn't a huge amount more than the NSX. It is a bit more. I think it is probably a bit faster accelerating as well to get there. It's not as fast as I was expecting, considering it has got quite a lot of power. The Sierra, on the other hand, it doesn't. I think the Sierra is one of the least powerful cars, actually, at 325 horsepower. It's not surprising, then, that the Daytona is kind of leading on the straight bits. However, as we go further around the lap, the Sierra really did struggle. I'm not entirely sure why. There was no sort of glaring mistakes, and it didn't look particularly hard to drive. You see it come around the second to last corner. In fact, maybe third to last. Depends if you count the kink in the straight as a corner. But yeah, it didn't look really that leery. It wasn't all over the place. It wasn't understeering horribly. There wasn't any sort of glaring errors. It didn't have a huge amount of power, 325 horsepower as I said. Top speed wasn't fantastic at 141, one of the slower cars. In fact, I think that's slower than Daniel's at least. I think this is a little bit of a case of sort of cars with equal PI not really being very equal. It's possible the Sierra isn't particularly good for upgrading to A-Class. It doesn't help my point when you fall off the road there. I'm trying to sort of maybe defend you a little bit. It's hard to tell. I don't know whether it's a combination of either the Sierra not being particularly good at A-Class or maybe the upgrades in it not being right or not quite correctly tuned. It is very hard to say. I'm sure people will have their own opinions. I suspect it is just a wrong combination of upgrades according to Sierra, and that's why it was struggling a little bit. However, I have to say, credit goes to the Daytona. It was doing a very good job, and despite it being a massive thing that it was fairly, I wouldn't say it was agile through the corners, but it was fairly respectable. Ignore the still silly lagging tyre smoke. It's doing my head in now. I don't know why it's doing that on some cars and not on others. I just say, after we drove this thing in that 1,000 horsepower muscle car video, I saw a lot of the comments about the rear wing on this thing. I didn't have time to look up this stuff on the internet because my internet's now broken again. However, I love the idea that the rear wing on this thing was made that high just so they could open the boot on the road going version. That would just be fantastic sort of board meeting trying to come up with that solution. It's just an insane wing. I also like the fact that I did read, I have a muscle car book because I'm awesome, about this car, that they had problems when they sold road going versions because the car overheated when it went under 55 miles an hour, which I just think is phenomenal to consider that, you know, you're driving a road legal car that goes, if you try to drive it at road speed, overheats. So the solution is drive fast, and the police pull you over, then you have an excuse, sort of, kind of. I can't imagine it's going to work with your stupid Civic. However, with a Daytona, it's kind of true that if you go at 150, it actually keeps the car cool. There we go. So the Daytona did take a relatively easy win, and the Sierra was quite a long way behind. It's a little bit further apart than it was with me and the Lamborghini. I can't remember fastest laps on them too. But there was a fair big difference. So, there we go. I'm going to be honest, not a huge amount happened this week. There wasn't any particularly close races. I'm beginning to think that I might be changing what we're doing on these Tuesdays. If I think of a way of doing it, I'll just keep an eye out for future stuff because I might be changing how things work a little bit so that things are more action-packed because not a lot happened this week. That is it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. I apologise if this ends up on the wrong day or is late tomorrow. My internet is being a real pain at the moment. Hopefully it'll be working tomorrow, but I don't really know. So yeah, if this is a bit late, sorry. And keep your eyes, ears, whatever, out for future news because we may well be changing what we're doing on these Tuesdays. Also, sign up on the forums. That's a great way of finding out what's going on and to get in contact with us. I'll put a link in the description. However, that is it. Thank you for watching, everybody, and until next time, goodbye.